Morning, guys. It's now like 9:30 in the morning. The round starts at 11. We're playing against Hungary-C today, so second Hungarian team we're getting. It's like the junior team. This is like a tradition that the organizing country can send a couple of teams. I think they have now 3 teams in the open section. So yeah, I'm playing against. Let me think. Kristulovic, no, not Kristulovic. Kristulovic is on board 2. I'm on board 3 with white against Juhas Agoston, which is actually funny because Juhas, they have like a full family of chess players. They have now 3 IMs, I think. The guy I'm playing, Agoston, I think he's by far the youngest. He's born in 2000, I think 7, and he also has 2 brothers, Christoph and Armin, I think, and they're a bit older. So like a chess family, I prepared something. I have the white pieces today, so let's see how it goes. And yeah, I'll talk to you after the game. See you then. What's up, guys? Just a quick update. I just got back from dinner. I was at the gym before. I won my game today, and we also won the match. Finally, 2.5 to 1.5, which is always a nice way to end the tournament. I'm pretty happy with my game today. I think it was overall quite clean. I played against pretty young and talented Hungarian player. So now we played already against Hungary-A and Hungary-C. So if the tournament would have gone on for a couple of more days, maybe we would have had Hungary-B as well. But it's finished now. I think we finished 31st place or 32nd, which is okay overall. Yeah, I think our kind of hope was to get to top 30. But we were also kind of unlucky with the tiebreak. No one really understands how this whole tiebreak system works. Very hard to understand, and some surprising countries are in front of us, let's put it like this. And yeah. Otherwise, the closing ceremony is tonight as well. At 9 p.m. it starts. By the way, India won the tournament, yeah. Which, I mean, they just put up a huge show. Like, I was joking with my friend that they would probably also have won the tournament, or at least be medal contenders, if they would have only played with the first 3 boards, because they were just crushing like Gukesh, Prague, and Ergaisi. They're just insanely strong, yeah. So yeah, tournament has gone to an end. What else did I want to say? Yeah, about the placement, I think at least how it was last time, if you get to the top 20 European countries, then they all get a spot they get 1 spot in the upcoming World Cup, and I think we were now 22nd from the European countries, so a bit unlucky, obviously, or 23rd possibly, because I think Sweden was like 22nd and we are just behind Sweden, so always a bit unlucky, also only with the tie breaks. But yeah, I'll play the European individuals as well in the, when is it, November, so I can also get my spot there if I play really well. Here overall, I think I will make a big recap of the whole tournament, where I go through some more things as well. If you like that idea, please let me know in the comments as well. Just to go over some highlights and some things which I haven't discussed as much, and which you're also interested in. Possibly some nice stories from the playing hall with some famous names there, like Kramnik, and how he's walking around and checking out the phones and everything. I mean, all of this cheating is like another question itself, which I have also a lot to say about. Not as controversial as Kramnik possibly, but yeah. I've just realized while editing that the video just cut off, but I was anyway not saying much anymore except for see you in the recap. So now, see you in the recap, which is starting now. Since the tournament is over now, I just felt like working out again, even though I'm not feeling fully fit again. But I went for the pull day, which is my favorite, so working on the biceps and on the back. I did lots of bicep curls and these like rows. By the way, if there are some like gym experts among you and you know some tips to improve my form, please let me know in the comments. I'm always trying to improve, especially when it comes to the gym. Here you can see the RDLs, which I think I've also done in some previous video. Then I went along with some pull-ups, of course. And yeah, this is one of my favorite exercises, by the way, these cable rows. Perfect for the back, yeah, like really good exercise. By the way, I sped up all these videos just because I think it's boring to see me work out for I don't know, a couple of minutes on normal speed. Then I went along, took off the shirt. I mean, there were no people around. I usually hate people that just work out without a shirt, but I was alone in the gym, so I felt it was fine, and it was really hot, so I thought it's fine. Then I went for these deadlifts. Yeah, I think probably the best exercise. Yeah, like compound movement for the whole back. One of my favorite exercises. And in the end, I went along and finished it off with some more pull-ups and later on some more bicep curls. So bicep curls, just perfect exercise. Yeah, I really love them. You can do so many of them, and you just get such a nice pump. So yeah, it was a great workout, and I'm just really happy to get back to the gym again. What's up, guys, and welcome to the last game recap of the Olympiad, of the FIDE Chess Olympiad 2024. And honestly, this is like the recap I'm most excited about, because now the tournament is over and I have all the time in the world to analyze the game and really go in depth. Because before that, it was always a bit tough. Yeah, I was recording the recap in the evening, and the pairings were already out, and we had to prepare. So I had to always kind of like be in a bit of a rush when it comes to the analysis. But today I don't have to, and I also think that today's game was very interesting. So I will try to go really in more depth today, since also the game is actually very interesting for me because I haven't checked it. Just in general, for your information, haven't checked my games before the recaps. Also, I never had any time to check them during the tournament. So I'm always doing these completely raw. Sometimes I have the engine in front of me for some help. But yeah, my reaction to the game is always like 99% raw. Yeah? Yeah, today my game, I won against Agoston Juhas, my apologies, who is, I believe he was born in like 2006 maybe. So it was the C team of Hungary. Usually the country where the Olympiad is happening, they can have, usually I think it's two teams, but now they had three teams. So the A team is like the best one, B team, and the C team was like for juniors. And I was on board three, and today I had the white pieces, and I wanted to have like a kind of like a more slow game. I went for knight f3, d5, and now I played this line e3, which I've already tried a couple of times, and I really like the resulting positions. White usually goes for some slower development with c4 and then b3, as we've seen in the game. Also, I think in this tournament, actually, I've played g3. So as you can tell, I'm quite a big fan of going knight f3 in the first move, simply because it simply keeps all of white's option open, and it's like a kind of a slow start towards the game, and there's nothing much happening, which kind of fits my style. By the way, I've also recorded a course for ChessBase, which should arrive possibly this year still, on the ready for white, so starting with knight f3 and g3, where actually I'm playing this repertoire which I gave in the course for the past couple of months. So I was not bullshitting there or anything. So once it arrives, I'll tell you. I think it's actually a very nice course to check out. Of course, small advertisement here. Absolutely no shame. But anyway, I went for e3 this game. He played knight f6, c4, now e6. What I also saw about my opponent is that he's actually a Grünfeld player. The Grünfeld arises after d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, and now d5. And often Grünfeld players have problems with the move orders 1 knight f3 or 1 c4, because they cannot really get it that nicely, since this move order, now if bishop d7, d4 would be nice for black, now d5 is in the Grünfeld, but e4 is the problem. And then after castle, now d4, black is in the King's Indian and not in the Grunfeld. And if he goes d5 now I can take cd5, knight takes d5, and here white has some extra options. H4 is the move I've played a couple of times. This is probably the most dangerous option for white. There are also moves like queen b3, queen f4 check. And there's even this nice idea with b takes c3. Now after d4, c5, we would be in the standard greenfold. But white has some ideas with rook b1 and then also h4. Not playing d4 right away. So white has many ideas there. So I think that some greenfield players are struggling with this, and as was he. After knight f3, he went d5. I went e3, knight f6, c4, now e6, c6. I'm not sure if I've already said it, but this transposes to the Slav defense, which is also not in his repertoire, as I thought, at least, with d4. White could also go for knight c3 and then b3 again, not playing d4 necessarily. But he went e6, now b3, bishop d6, and here I thought for a bit, because yesterday I briefly checked this line and I actually wanted to play with bishop b2, castle and knight c3, when, how was it? I think black goes, what does black do here? I mean, there were some moves. Yeah, c6 again transposes to some Slav here, but wasn't it here that black goes for something like b6? Because b6 there are always some knight b5 ideas. Maybe there was a6 here, and I mean in general some position like this I was checking. Yeah, cd ed g3, and then white goes bishop g2, short castle, and it will lead to some similar type of position, but the bishop was on g2. Instead, in the game, the bishop was on d3, but the structure is similar. Yeah? But during the game, I decided somehow I had the feeling that I want to go d4, because also there I had like a small idea in mind, which I've checked some time ago. And yeah, this was just like the spontaneous decision, which then turned out, I think, pretty well. So yeah, this also sometimes happen. Like yesterday, I spent maybe a couple of minutes on this line. Even now, as you can tell, yeah, I don't remember even half of it. But yeah, during the game, I just felt like I want to go d4. Castle, bishop d3, and here b6 is very standard. Again, black could go for something like c6, but here white gets a pretty good version. It goes something like bishop b2, knight bd2, and as far as I know, there are even some ideas with quick queen e2 and then e4. Sorry, e4. When black can have some trouble. Also, there is some line like I think knight d2, g6, and some g4 options, maybe even right away, or queen e2 first, something like this. Yeah, white has some nice ideas. E4 is one of them, or some g4 ideas are, I think, also there. So yeah, he went b6, and now the big point is after bishop b7, now c takes d5. Bishop b2 obviously is also a move, and white will go for something slow like knight d2, queen e2, rook c1, rook d1. When it's just an equal game, white has a tempo up, but it shouldn't be a big issue for black. But I went for c takes d5, with the point now e takes d5, now we have this castpad structure, and now bishop a3. So this is the whole point with this system, that I'm simply waiting with the bishop, not going to b2 right away, since this exchange of bishops would usually, I would say, favor white, because now the pawn on c7 is not defended, and whenever black pushes c5, the pawn can also be vulnerable. So yeah, something like c5, rook c1. And these hanging pawns we will also see in the game, I think are not easy to play as black. Of course, also not easy for white to play, but black has to be really careful that he doesn't lose any of these pawns. Actually, this game is a nice example of how to handle these hanging pawns position, I would say, as we will see later. But bishop a3, he played c5, I think a good move. By the way, what I wanted to mention was that knight takes d5 is maybe a more solid option. I don't know what the engine gives here, but during the game I wasn't entirely sure. I wanted to go bishop b2, knight d7, and knight bd2. When again white is maybe slightly pressing because I have this kind of I would say tempo up in some way. I'll go something like rook c1, knight e4. But this will be, I think, way harder to play from a winning perspective, because after c5, the position can very easily just become very dry. If these two pawns exchange, position is just completely symmetrical, and if then more pieces exchange, it will just be super drawish. But he went e takes d5, now bishop a3, c5, knight c3, and with this move rook e8, he kind of caught me off guard, and I after knight d7 here, I spent lots of time, half an hour, as you can see. Rook e, I mean, it's all logical. Rook e8, rook c1, but somehow I only remembered that. What was it? I'm not sure because I remembered some idea. I think it was here, knight d7. This move I remembered, and here I knew that knight b5 was the move I wanted to play. Just kicking away the bishop. And after rook c1, now black usually has to go for something like a6 to remove the knight again, and only now knight c3. And this a6 move can often be a weakness, because when I go knight a4, this pawn on b6 is often then a bit soft. But he went rook e8 first, and now I thought knight b5 makes less sense because he can simply go bishop f8. When in knight d7, knight b5, now he cannot go to f8. He can go to e7, but of course there the bishop is placed a bit worse than on f8. So I went rook c1, knight d7, and now knight a4. I think this was kind of the wrong idea. I spent so much time here, and now I just turned on the engine because I'm interested to see, because my first idea was to play queen e2, but then I wasn't sure about this variation. I will tell you: c takes d4, bishop takes e6, b takes e3, and of course bishop e4. I think I did not really see. I only thought about rook takes e3. I think knight e4. Now the double attack on knight and on bishop and rook. So bishop e4 is forced, takes, knight d4. Here I saw queen f6, bishop g3, knight c5. And here I wasn't sure about the position because the square in d3 is weak. Black has ideas with bishop a6. So yeah, the engine gives some edge for white, but I thought that black is very safe here, which is probably true. It goes down to equal. So this was my calculation, but I guess here I missed bishop b4, and what is there? That's just it, or what? I think I saw some ideas with d4, knight d4, knight d5. Bishop takes e3, knight f4. There's just queen g4. And knight takes d3, knight e6, or yeah. This is the point. And black loses the queen because there's also mate threat on g7. So bishop b4 is nice, and after knight e4, can I not take here? Yeah, I can. And these positions are usually nice for white, yeah. I get knight d4, and black is stuck with this passive bishop on b7, pawn on d5 is isolated. So I guess that queen e2, which was my first instinct, is probably better, because idea with queen e2 is just to go bishop a6 to exchange his bishop. So engine says knight e4. I also saw that move, but I thought that this position is pretty nice for me. Computer says knight f6, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's also fine for black. Something like h3, I would think, maybe. It doesn't, for me, it felt like black is a bit in the defensive here, because he cannot move the rook on a, the pawn on a7 might be hanging, and again his center is under some pressure. So I think, practically speaking, this position with queen e2 would be better. But I played knight a4 instead because I was already thinking for so long, and I was just stuck in this variation here. That at some point I just decided I would go on knight a4, and then I would think. But after queen e7, it was again not so easy to find a plan. I was hoping for rook c8, when now I wanted to go queen e2, because now c4, c takes d4 doesn't work at all anymore because the knight is on a4 already. But even here, knight e4, and again, I guess this is just okay. The computer bashes out g5 here, completely insane, and I'm already worse. Crazy. Yeah, but he went queen e7. Now I went bishop b5. And actually, I'm still not sure what happens after a6 here, because then afterwards I thought about this, but I did not really see what happens after bishop b8 here. Because obviously I have to double attack now, but I'm a piece down for one pawn. But after bishop b8 I cannot take because of queen takes a3. But the computer says queen d4. And why is this winning? Black can simply not move, yeah? And what's my next move if something like this? c6. And if takes, take on b7, rook a7, queen b6, another piece up. Wow, what a move. Yeah, queen d4, just silent move, and black has no defense. Nice. Yeah, so a6 doesn't work. Yeah, somehow I had the feeling there should be something, but okay, also afterwards I didn't want to, because in this position after queen e2, after I played queen e2, I thought what actually happens if it goes a6 right away. Because after queen e2 now I was again calculating a6, but here I saw that after takes, knight b6, knight b6, d takes c5, bishop b8, I thought that here I have queen b2 when I'm winning. And this is probably correct, because if the knight moves, then I have c6, and otherwise I will just take the knight on b6 in most cases. I still thought about d4 here when I thought that c6 is important. This was one more variation, because knight takes d4, I thought there was queen c7, or queen e5, I guess it's the same. No, it's not the same. Because I felt this position is just bad for me, but okay, it's equal, I guess. Bishop h2 is winning, queen e5 also good. Yeah, so c6 was the idea here, after d4, c6, and then I'm picking up the bishop on b7, which is way more important than the knight on b6. Because cb6, again, what was I thinking here? I thought there was some concrete idea, but also now, as you can see, these bishops seem very dangerous towards my king. But yeah, c6 was a nice point there. So queen e2 was played, knight e4, now bishop a6. This was my whole plan after all. And he went bishop c6, which then later on, maybe this was the wrong decision, but also again, after bishop a6, queen a6, I thought I have a very pleasant position here. Again, the engine is not impressed. It says around equal with rook c8. And something like knight c3, I mean, I'm 100% sure at some point again some g5 will come now. Like h3, normal move, and computer just goes h5 and says position is equal, and later on even some g5 ideas. Yeah. But somehow it felt to me like, yeah, these hanging pawns again can be a bit dangerous for black. But yeah, engine is of course always correct, so position has to be equal. Anyway, bishop c6 happened, knight c3. Now he took, because knight b5 was like my main idea when I'm threatening to take the bishop on d6, which black doesn't want to give away, and otherwise bishop b8 is just an ugly move for him to make. By the way, there was one more point before. Yeah, as you can see, I was not joking when I said before that I will go into depth today, because I think the game was just very interesting overall. Yeah, let me think. I think it was. Yeah, it was here, I think. Yeah, where I thought about bishop a6, queen a6, c4 as well. And now after takes, knight takes. This was a funny idea. I cannot take on c4 because knight b8 is winning the queen. This was a nice idea. But I thought during the game I can play knight c3. And I also felt like this is slightly better for me. Not much, yeah, 0.5, but here my evaluation was pretty correct. Pawn on d5 is a bit weak, and now his knights are kind of misplaced, yeah. I thought knight f6 should be the move. And here, okay, I did not calculate much further anymore. I thought something like knight e5 looks good. My computer says b takes c4 is even better. But yeah, his pawn on d5 is now kind of a weakness as well. But yeah, these c4 ideas, of course, you always have to be careful. Also in these positions here as well, yeah. If black can push c4 successfully, and when the tactics works after these diagonals open up, then it can be very bad for white. So white always has to watch out for c4 ideas. Yeah, knight e4, so where were we? Here, bishop e6, he went bishop c6, knight c3, he took, knight f6, and rook c2, actually I was not happy by making this move, because then I saw that he has bishop d7 and bishop f5 with tempo. I thought that he will anyway go knight e4 next, but therefore maybe I should have started with this move. When after knight e4 now only rook c2, I guess this would have made more sense, but anyway, his whole strategy with bishop d7 didn't fully work for him either, so maybe it was good that I provoked bishop d7. Now I went h3 to stop bishop g4 as well. I thought this pin could be annoying. Computer gives rook c1, But I mean, maybe this just doesn't work out. Pawn on, not a pawn c5 is hanging, but if bishop f5, does the computer want to give the exchange? Actually, yeah. Cool. Interesting. I briefly thought about this, but I didn't think I can be better here. Position is equal as well, but yeah, I wasn't sure about this. Yeah. So I went h3, more of a slow approach, bishop f5. Now I went rook c1, simply back, bishop e4, rook fd1. I think this was all pretty logical. Here he went h6. And yeah, now in hindsight, actually h6 is maybe a bit too slow, yeah? Engine also says queen f3 takes, take here, and simply go for this position when rook takes d4, queen a3 he has. Nice double attack, and I'm actually only lucky here to have this trick, yeah, with rook c6, rook f6, and somehow it's a perpetual, king f8, queen f6, and I guess queen h8, queen e5 with perpetual, yeah. Okay, so he could have taken, yeah, taken on d4, and I guess I have to take with this one. I mean, even this position can be somewhat annoying for black, because he cannot occupy the c file and my bishop is planted here. Only question is what happens after queen a3. Bishop b7, rook b8, rook c7. Maybe I have some initiative. And here, ooh, g4. Yeah, game goes on now. G4, g5, f7 is vulnerable, so also interesting. But probably more solid than what happened in the game, because after h6 now finally my bishop decided to go back. Maybe I could have or should have gone bishop b2 right away for that reason. Yeah, now we figured it out. Because now whenever he takes, I simply take back with the bishop, and now he doesn't have this queen a3 ideas. And if you get something like this, if I manage to consolidate, let's say rook fd1, I mean, still black is very active here, and he's probably not that much worse, but yeah, white has like a long-lasting advantage also in these sorts of positions. Yeah, let's say even queen e2. I know engine says rook c7 is better, but even this position, yeah. Rook c8, I guess bishop a6 or something, and if he takes, it's just very unpleasant for black. Yeah, I've actually had a very, very similar position against Lupulescu in the round, what was it, round 9, I think. Even worse version for me there because I had the double pawns, but you get the point. Yeah, white has the open file, pawn on d5 is weak, so this is something good for white. So bishop e2 starting is more accurate. But I went rook d1, now bishop f3 was his chance, I would say. h6, bishop b2 now, rook d7. So bishop e2 now, the point was, I thought now I'm threatening to take here, and then bishop takes f6. I don't know how I can best showcase it. Let's make like a maneuver, and let's say we have this position with white to move, yeah? Now we got it. I thought this is an idea, and now bishop f6, queen f6. No, it was, I think it was starting with knight c2, yeah? Knight d2. And if now bishop goes back, now I have this and bishop e7. This was the idea. A double attack on rook and pawn on d5. And if the rook moves, I can simply take here. He can go bishop h2, but even in this position, yeah, I go something like knight c4, and I'm simply a pawn up. So this was the threat, yeah, to take and go knight d2. So therefore he went rook d7, which I think was a good move. Simply avoiding bishop e7 on all lines. I went bishop e5 now, rook c7, dc. I mean, what can I say about this position? Because I also thought about knight e5 here. Yeah? Rook c7, and this was a bit too concrete for me because I thought about something here. Yeah, knight g4 was my thought process, and I thought if he takes, now he's in some trouble, because I'm threatening dc5, and I thought it's not so easy for him to to avoid, yeah. I mean, g6 he can go, but again, this diagonal is a bit weakened. So I was happy with this, but what I totally did not understand was the position after knight d7. And I was calculating, what was it? I think it was f3 right away. Bishop f5, dc5, knight c5, rook d5. And I just couldn't see everything clearly, but I mean, it's also lost there. I'm just trying to see how. Just queen a6, queen e3 is there. It just didn't feel right for me to make this adventure with the knight. And my feeling was correct there. I went bishop e5. I thought the rook is a bit worse on c7 because when the d file opens, it's not there to support the d file. So I included bishop e5. Only now went dc, bc, and now bishop d3. I also thought I could go bishop d3 right away. Did not really see the difference. Oh, was it here? I think I wanted to avoid this queen f3 takes. Again, this sort of position. Yeah, now bishop e5. I think this was my issue. Because I thought here black will get control of the c file. And if he has control of the c file, then of course I think he can be pretty happy. I thought it's just equal. So therefore I took immediately. And only now went bishop d3. Now again, I think my threat is to take here. I thought about this move rook d8. And yeah, bishop f6 is the best move. Queen f6 takes, and here my idea was knight h2. Because knight d2, I thought there is queen b2. I have king f1, just protecting the queen. And if queen i2, just knight e4, this is good, yeah? Takes. And okay, even this endgame is probably lost for black, even though it's not clear, huh? But very good winning chances for white, I would say. But my idea was knight h2, this is what I saw, and I thought in this endgame I have pretty good chances to, at least practically, to play for a win. Yeah, of course, objectively it could very easily be a draw, but he has this long-term target on c5 that can slowly improve my position, maybe g3, king g2, something like this. Yeah, but he took on f3, queen f3, and went bishop e5. Otherwise, I mean, even during the game, I thought, if you go something like rook d8, do I take on f6 or not? This is like a good question, because I felt this should be good chances for me, but of course, with opposite colored bishops, it's always not so easy. But yeah, computer gives something like 0.6. I mean, I will go. The question is this kind of structure, yeah? What is this? Because I felt this is probably the best I can get, but even here, how do I continue? G3, F4. Very unpleasant for black, but if it's winning is, of course, the other question. But if rook d8, there's bishop c3, so anyway, it doesn't matter, and bishop a5 is coming, and very bad for black. But so we went bishop e5, this was a good move, and I took on e5. Computer says bishop a3 is better, which also makes some sense. I don't know how much time I spent, 1 minute. Yeah, bishop a3 makes sense. What was I thinking about a5 maybe here? There's bishop c4, this trick. Yeah, I saw this in some other variation. Because he cannot take because of queen takes a8. And otherwise I will probably win the pawn on d5. I mean, even this, yeah, a4, line continues. a4, bishop d5. Rook a5. Okay, this is not really human. So yeah, bishop a3 maybe makes sense, and then rook c2, rook c1. Even though something like this, again, black is very solid, and maybe now a5. Rook c1, I'm still slightly better, but okay, also now he exchanges, yeah. Now, why am I not winning a pawn here? Bishop f5, rook d8, and he has queen a1 in the end, yeah. And just picks up the pawn on a2. Okay. Yeah, I took on e5. Now I went rook c2, simply doubling the rooks here. Queen e6. Now I went queen f4. I think this was a very good move, because he cannot take, because then the pawn on c5 will simply drop off. Because if rook c8, I have either bishop a6 or bishop f5. I think it doesn't matter. Yeah. Rook has to move, and then I will take the pawn on c5. So he cannot go for this endgame. He went queen b6, and now my queen is better placed here at least, yeah. Because the queen on d6 was perfectly active, and now I kicked it out. He cannot exchange queens. And here was, I think, a very critical moment. I went for queen a4 with the idea of queen a3 and sometimes, or queen b5, just hitting the pawn on c5. But what was very interesting to me was this g4 option. I don't know if it's good. Engine says it's still equal, but I thought this plan could be interesting for white to go g4, h4, and then g5, just to gain space on the king side and possibly to have an attack against the king, because now the queen on b6 is out of play, and also the rooks are not really doing much, and I have two attackers, and once the knight is gone, black doesn't really have any defenders anymore. But I was just a bit scared, again, overall feeling, yeah, opening up my king with little time on the clock. I did not feel very good about it. So I went queen a4, like a more solid approach. He went knight d7. His point was to go knight e5. I went bishop f5, now knight e5, and now queen f4. And here he played queen d6. Knight g6 is the move the computer says, but I don't understand. Bishop g6, f g6. I mean, from a human standpoint, this looks very dangerous for black. Like, these pawns are always a target, and I have always some breaks with e4 or b4. I will go something like h4 most likely, yeah? Just fixing this pawn on g6, and computer says 0-0, but to me this looks, yeah, not easy for black at all, to be honest. Also, aside from that, after knight g6, I can, of course, I don't have to take. Yeah? I can go to a4, I can go to g3, when probably at some point the knight anyway has to move again. Where were we? Knight f4, queen d6. Yeah, he played queen d6, rook d2. And now he went for knight g6, which is now a much worse version, because I will get to exchange queens, and then the knight to g6. And then the knight on g6. So what else should he have done instead of knight g6? Computer says c4, but again, it's pretty hard, I think. Also here, I think my threat was already bishop e4. Let's say, I don't know, let's say a6, yeah? Rook d1 is the threat, but maybe also bishop e4. Bishop e4, he has d4. Because I thought about g6 in this position, when here I thought bishop e4 is the move, yeah? And now, of course, also the pawn on h6 is hanging. And black is already much worse, yeah? Pawn on d5 is hanging. Not good for black at all. What else was there? I think queen f6 was another idea. And here I think it was only one nice trick, rook d1, and at first I thought I'm losing the piece here with g5, because wherever the queen moves, the bishop will hang on f5. But I'm lucky to have this bishop h7 check here. King g7 takes, and now only rook d5, and I simply won a pawn and should be a technically winning position. Yeah, computer says c4, which is very surprising to me. I somehow did not think about this at all. But I guess he just wants some counterplay. Like, if bishop e4 now, I'm probably losing a piece or something, yeah. If this, he has queen c1 in the end. Of course, queen c1 check. Yeah, so c4, and the engine line continues, takes, knight takes. Okay, this position, yeah, which again, still not an entirely easy draw for black. He still needs to defend. The pawn on d5 is still a weakness. Also, bishop and rook are a much better combo than knight and rook usually, because they, they play well together, because the rook can go sideways and upwards, and the bishop can go diagonally. So that's why. That's also why queen and knight are a very good combo, because the queen can go all directions except for how the knight goes. Yeah, pretty standard stuff, but still nice to know these guidelines, I would say. Yeah, he went knight g6, which now I think it goes to this almost lost endgame, even though maybe I had better chances. Yeah, I went for this bishop g6 endgame, which maybe it's winning, maybe not. I still, again, did not really analyze it fully. But there is one moment here, because I went for this, and here engine says bishop e4. knight e7, and now bishop d3. Why does that make sense? Oh, that's really deep. Because I was thinking about rook c2 first. Wasn't here. Rook c6. I mean, this was the game with bishop d3, yeah, but was bishop d3 right away what I was thinking? Because this ran into knight e5, I think. Also not here. Bishop d3 is also a good move. So rook c, bishop e4, the point is knight e7, now bishop d3. And what am I threatening? Let's say he goes a6 like in the game. Rook c2, rook c6 just to protect, and now he goes e4. Wait, I think I saw this position, somehow I saw this position, but I only thought about bishop c4 here. Instead you have bishop d5, still a good position for me. But I went for the more forcing continuation since I was also low on time. I played bishop d3 back to win one more move on the clock because I'm forcing a6, and only now I took on g6, fg6, because I felt like this endgame should give me very decent winning chances. It would be more accurate to take right away probably, and then to go for this e4 right away. We will reach this position, or I think very similar at least, in the game later. Because now, with this move order, now maybe he has this extra option with c4, which I briefly thought about. But this position here, okay, the first question is, can he take here? How is this position? Not obvious to me if it's winning or not. But of course, after this, I can also go rook a6, rook c1, and this endgame. Okay, I think if I'm on the move here, and if I get h4, from an understanding, I think h4 is very important. Just to stop g5. I think this is borderline lost for black. Because now I will bring the king to g4 somehow, g3, f4, e4, possibly, and then at some point maybe h5. At least, practically speaking, very unpleasant for black to defend this. It would be way easier if this pawn were on f7 for black. Then it should be more of an easy draw. So yeah, c4 I'm not entirely convinced. The engine says rook c6, ab. But again, okay, now he will get the better version. Now he will go for this, and now he will get g5. And this position I can imagine that it's somewhat of an easier draw. Still, if I get something like this and h4, I'm also not sure it's such an easy draw. Yeah, with this d3, also not entirely easy for black to hold it, but it would have been a better chance than what happened in the game. Rook d7 happened, and now again I repeated once. And only now I went for e4, forcing d4. And here, in general, I had this winning idea with rook c4. Now I thought I'm threatening b4. If king f7, I thought b4 is good. When if he goes rook c7, I simply take, and now I thought this should be actually winning. Because here I have, if check and rook c2, I thought I have rook a6, rook a4, and then I win this pawn, when his double pawns are probably not worth much. But computer says it's a draw. Okay. Just a draw. Then where's the win here? Sorry, it was rook c takes d4. Yeah, I even saw it during the game. Rook c takes d4, I'm keeping one pair of rooks on the board, and then it should be technically probably winning. At least take some work, but should be winning. So this was the point. He went a5, and now my winning idea was to go. Let's just say rook c2. Let's ignore d3. Yeah. Let's say he goes rook c7, rook a4, and now if he protects his pawn on a5, let's say with rook a6, then I have rook takes d4. This was the whole winning idea. But I wanted to start with f3 just to protect the pawn on e4 in any cases. King e4 and only now go rook c2. Because I thought if I go rook c2 right away, then d3, rook d2, rook d4. I think it was here. Takes here. But again, we're reaching like a very similar position like before. Yeah, but I thought f3 is a better choice somehow. just to protect the pawn e4. Huh? King f7 and only now rook c2. And if d3 now, I just wanted to go rook d2. And here, the perfect example, I think now I intended rook c3. Because now the pawn on e4 is protected. So this was like the whole point. King e6, and now I thought he's threatening to go king d6. So if I go for something king f2, now king d6. I thought this would be very hard to win. And objective, it's already a draw. You know? Because now rook a4, now my idea doesn't work anymore with rook d4 because the rook on c6 is now protected by the king. So therefore I had to hurry now and go rook a4 right away. Because now again, if rook a7, then I have rook takes d4. I'm just winning. He went king e5, which is probably a mistake. c4, I saw it during the game. Because if takes, we will reach this position in another variation. And there was actually one brilliant idea, which only later I saw. And I was lucky not to have played it. So here I would have probably went bc4. When I saw rook c5, I thought king f2, and still there's some work to be made. Yeah, it's not entirely obvious if it's winning for me or not. So this would have been a better chance. He went king e5 instead. Now I took on a5, and Engine says it's a draw, but I'm still not entirely sure. I think it goes pretty deep here. He went d3, which is correct. By the way, instead of rook a5, computer says king f2 is correct. And if d3 now, just rook d2. It's actually very logical to king f2 here. Why didn't I do it? Maybe rook a7? I have b4. I totally missed this idea. He cannot take with either of the pawns because the rooks are hanging. And if c4, I have b5. Here I'm winning this. Another trick that he cannot take on a2 because I have rook d5 check. Intermediate check. And I'm just winning the rook. Nice idea. b4 I totally missed during the game. Rook a5, d3 happened in the game. And here, sorry, where was it? I think, yeah, in this position, rook c5 is what I wanted to say. I was calculating this at first, d3, rook c1. Let's just turn off the engine. Rook c1, and here, exercise for you. Find a way to draw for black, because at first, I only calculated king e5, when I thought I should be winning here. Let's say what the engine says, king f2. And I thought king d4 is his best chance, when I thought that rook c4 and now king e1 should be winning. King f4 and here e5 was the critical move. King e5, king d2. And I'm probably picking up the pawn on d3, and it should be technically winning somehow. Like rook e4, check, rook e3, and I'll pick up this pawn. But he has this amazing move, rook c7, which only later I saw. And if I take, he goes d2, and I cannot stop the pawn from winning. Huh? Rook c6 check. I thought it's maybe still a draw. But he has even king d8. Huh? No, king d8. Yeah, king d8. Huh? And if rook c5 with that, rook d5 check, black is queening with check. Yeah? So rook c7 I only then saw. Rook c7, and after rook d1, I saw rook c3. And king f2, rook c2 check only now. And then he will get very active all of a sudden. If king g3, possibly d2, he will take this pawn. King will come in. So this rook c7 resource I saw later, yeah? And then I was just shocked, and I had to look for something else. So then I went rook a4, and I took on a5, which apparently is a mistake. And here he should have gone rook b6. But I'm still not sure, because I don't see his plan. He's just waiting, yeah? If his point is after rook a4 check, now he has rook b4. He has to block this check, because if my king gets to e3, then it's game over. And maybe I don't have anything to do that. Yeah? Even now, king c3. No, king e3 again. g5. And it seems like black is just waiting, and he will hold like this. And now even g4. So I have to go g4. And he has sufficient counterplay. Wow. Now rook b6 is very nice, because he has to block this check here. He went c4 instead, decisive mistake, and now I simply took on c4. I also thought rook a4 could be winning, but looks like I'm wrong. Rook e7, and if I wait, again, kind of like a waiting battle here. again, rook h6 here as you know. Okay, I took on c4, which was accurate. King c4, and now I get the king to e3, so here I felt it should be more or less easily winning. If rook c4, I saw rook a3, I think, important move. Again, my king gets to e3 and should be technically, I'm just taking on e3 in the next move, and I'm 2 pawns up. I took on c4, king e3, and the rest was more or less easy, I think. I just played h4 again to fix these pawns here. g5 takes, g4. Again, not allowing g4 for him for any counterplay. And yeah, here, okay, if he continues waiting, I thought my winning plan is to go, I thought the easiest winning plan is to just push the pawn here. And let's say this, just a6, I thought even this should be winning. And here the king is cut off, so I will push the pawn at some point, and I thought this should be a technical win. Also rook d5 is there, I'm just picking up the pawn on g5. So he tried rook f6, but now I'm intermediate check important, and only now rook d1, and rook f8, and now rook f2, or rook f1. I thought it didn't really matter much. But rook f2 even more accurate, because then I will take with this rook, and the pawn on a2 will be protected. And now I will just take the pawn, and okay, I actually did not really see why he played this on for so long, maybe for the match situation since we won. But yeah, I'm just 2 pawns up and it's very easily winning. There was only one more trick, which he tried here. If this is actually black to move, let's say this position, black has this very nice trick with rook takes a6. And if I take back, then it's stalemate. So very nice trick to watch out for. So I just went rook a5 check when he resigned. I also thought a7 should be winning, but again, now rook a6 was the trick. I can just queen, yeah, and there's nothing here, but I was a bit scared, so I just went rook a5 check right away. And now there are no more stalemate ideas, a7, and game is over. I will just queen on the next move. So yeah, very in-depth analysis. I hope you enjoyed it. Very interesting game, I think. Many interesting details, especially in the end game. So yeah, let me know what you think about the game. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know if you would like to see like a kind of recap of the whole tournament and some thoughts. I think I already mentioned it earlier in this kind of vlog before. But yeah, let me know what you think. Otherwise, thank you so much for the support you've shown me throughout the event. It helped a lot. I'm pretty satisfied with my individual performance, at least. I performed like 2600 rating performance, so cannot complain at all. So thank you for watching, guys, and see you in the upcoming videos. It's been an honor. So thank you again, and see you soon.